Hello, it's Matt from Black Coal Woodworking. Welcome here. Today I'm making some maple bowls. My neighbor took down a tree last summer and was kind enough to give me some of the wood. I'm using a 1/2-inch spindle gouge to get the wood round. I finally got to a point where the bark would come off nicely, and I decided to just kind of pry it off as opposed to getting smacked in the face. The wood itself had started to crack, so I had to start to cut it now. I probably could have preserved it a little bit better, but it looks like it's working out. I'm going to use a recess to hold it on the 4-jaw chuck. I did mark it out with a caliper, and I cut the bottom relatively flat, and then I'll need to mark it out again to know exactly how big it is. The first time I mark it is just to give me a rough idea, even though I know I'm going to cut that away. I'm using a parting tool here to get my recess straight, and then I switched over to a 1/2-inch spindle gouge to take out the bulk of that material in the middle. And to flatten it out, I like to use a 1-inch flat scraper. Just seems to look really nice that way. And then of course you need to create that little dovetail, and that's a little spindle gouge also. I don't know what size, so I'll just call it tiny. And then for fun, I wanted to put a little bit of decoration on the bottom. I seem to have this thing where I'm trying to save as much wood as I possibly can. So I use many different methods to get down to the round. Well, it is round, but as you can see, there's still some bark left there. So now I'm using my spindle gouge to point into the wood to get a super clean shaving, hoping to kind of nick the last little bit of that off. Here's a bit of a better view on that. For the final bit of shaping, I use my 1-inch flat scraper. And here I'm just really lightly touching the wood. I still have to deal with the top of this piece. That crack you see there, that all has to go away. This looks a little odd, I'm sure. This is a wet cloth. I'm really just raising the grain so I can sand it. And yeah, I didn't show you the sanding, but that's not the most fun part of this. Here you can see that I am taking away all that kind of cracked wood at the top of that bowl. So this is not an end grain bowl, so there's long grain running across. And anytime you can cut into the wood that way, it's so much easier to cut. That end grain is just crazy hard. But here, it's like butter, and it's super fun. Those massive shavings you get, I wore a lot of that. And it's almost a little badge of honor when you can get a shaving that long and that thick. I'm using a 1/2-inch bowl gouge to hollow out the bowl, and it's cut at roughly a 40-40 grind, which I find to be pretty efficient. One thing I'm always trying to do is to float the bevel whenever I'm making a cut. This keeps my tools sharper for longer, and I get more work done. I stopped to take a quick measurement of the bowl, more about the bottom, and realize it's a little too thick still. And I keep looking at the ridge as I'm cutting and thinking, man, that thing's gotta go away. And then eventually, oh yeah, I got it. That's when I'm really excited about it. Of course, I kind of freak myself out because I whip out a scraper after that and hope I don't leave some sort of nub or ridge or anything else in there. But it seemed to work out quite well. Back to the water for the inside, and once all that's done and dry, I stick it back on the lathe and sand it again. For finishing, I'm using walnut oil. That's it, just several coats of that. If you're enjoying the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if I've earned it. So this bowl is just about done. I generally put 3 or 4 coats on. Really, it's until the end grain in the bowl stops absorbing all the oil. The oil itself will dry overnight and harden. And after this bowl is ready for ice cream, cereal, popcorn, pretty much anything you can throw at it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.